Gail, how did you find Carnivore?
Well, I think the same way a lot of other people did is just cruising around YouTube and spotted people like Jordan Peterson and Michaela Peterson. I stumbled across Jason Fung because I was interested in fasting at the time. And then that led me to a few other keto influencers, which then again led me to Sean Baker and Anthony Chafee and Ken Berry, and probably a very similar journey as to a lot of other people. Anyway, I got started on it in April of 2022 is when I first went carnivore.
And what was it that made you interested in this kind of thing? Like, what were you trying to solve?
Mostly, I wanted to heal my body from the pain that I had been in for many, many years. Um, for since the 2013, yes, 2013, and this wasn't the beginning, but this was just the most recent episode. I had completely blown up with arthritis, and it came on very quickly, settled in over a few months, and then I mean, at the time that it started, I was very fit. I was hiking or walking 3 to 6 miles pretty much every day. I was doing longer hikes on the weekends. And so I was very fit. And then this hit me, and I went downhill pretty fast to the point where I was basically laying in my recliner 8 hours a day. Um, and this all happened around the time my dad passed away, too. So there was a whole lot going on back in 2013. And as I started gradually getting better from that, I kept getting to a point where I got, oh, is this as good as I'm ever going to get? And I'd get a little better, but then eventually I got to where I was mostly functional. I still couldn't do a lot of physical work, but I was mostly functional. So that was in 2017, 2018. I was doing okay. And then my mom passed away in 2017, and I spent the next year getting the house ready to sell and looking for a place to live. So in 2018, I found a place to live. I moved in. I was doing really well there. And within 2 months, boom, it started all over again. This process of my joints starting to swell up and the pain and the disability. And by the middle of 2019, I could not get out of a chair, out of bed without using some kind of assisted device. Walking was very painful, doing much of anything. My fingers swollen, couldn't do much with them. And so I was just suffering from all of this pain all the time. And this is what I really wanted to heal more than anything else. I had gained a bunch of weight during this time just because I was so sedentary and eating a bunch of junk. But mostly I really wanted to heal. I thought if I could heal to the point where I could be physically active again, I could work on the weight. And that was when I started getting some of those signs that, you can't really walk your way out of a bad diet. And I had worked on trying to improve my diet quite a bit after I moved here. And I went, whole hog into vegan and juicing and all of that. And none of that was working. So that was when I found carnivore and started carnivore. And within months, I was already improving. So it was like from April of 2022, the first few months were a little tough. I was fatigued all the time, but I was already losing weight. I was already having less pain. I was battling with that fatigue. And then I got COVID in October of 2022, and everything fell apart again. And it was in February of 2023 that Judy Cho had her video out about SERS, CIRS, and she pointed me to the VCS test, said, take the VCS test if you have any of these other things going on. And I did that. I failed it. I said, okay, this sounds like what I have. And so I had to find the right doctor. And I found a wonderful doctor in Montana who does telehealth, who is certified to do the Shoemaker protocol for SERS. And I started with her in May of 2023, and I've been with her ever since. And she started me right away on the process of getting started with the Shoemaker protocol. The Shoemaker protocol is the only proven protocol to reverse SERS. So if people have SERS, that's the way to go.
And
And
what is in the Shoemaker protocol?
the Shoemaker protocol is basically it's 12 steps that you have to follow in a certain order in order to rid your body of the toxins and then reverse the damage that was done to your brain. So it sounds complicated, but once you get into it and you begin to understand it, it's not as complicated as it sounds. I am currently on the last step. So I've been in treatment now for almost 2 years. And the first step is, number one, you have to not be exposed anymore to whichever biotoxin is causing your exposure. And for most people, that's mold. So I had mold in my house. And when I last talked to you, I was in the middle of remediating that. And the people who did the remediation kind of botched the job and contaminated the whole house. So I went through a process of cleaning up the house until I finally did get the house cleaned up and got through that step. And the next step that I was on was taking binders to remove all of the toxins from the gut receptors. And I've been on that since then. And then a few other things. There's a condition called Marcon's. So I had to be treated for that. And then I had to be treated for MMP9. And again, that's another one don't ask me to repeat what that means. I sometimes know it, I sometimes don't. But along the way, let's just talk about along the way, the improvement I've been getting. I credit most of it to just being carnivore more than the treatment that I've been going through. Because the treatment's been rough at times, and I've had to stop it, back off, minimize it. I am still, after almost 2 years, I'm still taking the very minimal amount of medication that you can take. And I can't take anymore because I'm just too sensitive to it. So I've been very minimal on the treatment and just stayed maximal on the carnivore diet. The only thing that I've had to alter is that I have had to put in a few carbs once in a while if I exert myself a little bit. I don't have the ability to produce ATP very well, so I need to boost my blood glucose just a little bit, and a handful of blueberries is usually pretty good as far as that goes. So a few carbs once in a while, I don't mind. But mostly, I've just stayed pure carnivore the last few years, and I've gotten most of my healing off of that. I have so much more energy now. I am in so little pain now. It's just wonderful.
That's fantastic. So, um, you were kind of in the middle of this when we last spoke, as you mentioned. So, let what is it that really has convinced you to stick with it for the last, I guess we spoke about 18 months ago, for the last 18 months?
I just don't want to go back to hurting. And I know that what caused my problem initially was the SERS, because everybody has 20/20 hindsight, as they say, and I know that I've had SERS now since I was young. The first big episode I had of this joint pain happened when I was 23, so that's a long time ago. Okay, not that long. Even with that, I know that the way I was eating for many years was not helping. And when I had the opportunity to find a way of eating that was going to heal me and it's working, I don't see the point in going back to eating the stuff that was not helping and probably causing more damage. It to me it's a no-brainer. You stick with what works. If you don't want to hurt, just do what works.
Yeah. So, what is your menu like day to day?
Pretty much the same as the last time we spoke. I mostly just eat ground beef and eggs, and not really much else. I did have bacon again today, uh, and I do eat some hot dogs when I feel the need for a little extra at times. The one thing I did do since I last talked to you, I went back to drinking coffee. Uh, but I think that was mostly because my local grocery stores all started selling goat milk. And I don't seem to have the same inflammatory response to goat milk as I do to regular cow's milk. So I've been enjoying lattes in the morning with goat milk. And so I am drinking coffee again and probably too much goat milk.
And so, like, often are you eating in a day? Is it like you have your coffee in the morning and you don't eat till later?
Yeah, usually I won't eat until 2 or 3 in the afternoon, and then I'll probably eat something again a little later, 7:30 in the evening. Is when because I like to split it up a little bit. I like to have my eggs first, and then I'll have the ground beef usually later. Last night I had some short ribs. I found a good deal on them at the grocery store the other day, so I said, "Oh, I want those." So I made some short ribs last night. So I had those last night about 8 o'clock.
And has anyone been surprised by the way you eat or the lack of eating that you do? Like they don't see you snacking all the time?
Well, not really. I get the quizzical looks at times, but I'm not around people a lot. Um, Part of having SERS when you're going through the treatment is avoiding going into places where you're going to be in an enclosed area with a lot of other people. So I don't go to restaurants. I did go to a restaurant last week because my favorite restaurant that had the best ribeye I've ever had at a restaurant is closing. And so I went there to close them out with one last ribeye. But other than that, I really don't go anywhere where I'm eating with other people. So they don't really, make too much noise about what I eat because they don't really know that much.
If you were talking to someone that was experiencing SIRS-like symptoms, would you recommend that they start foundationally with a carnivore diet and then look to the Shoemaker protocol, or the other way around, or what would you recommend they do?
Well, the easy thing to do is start doing carnivore because I am absolutely convinced that carnivore way of eating is the best way to eat when you do have SIRS. And if you speak to the people in the SIRS community, the SIRSgroup.com for one thing, JC and Barbara run this wonderful group. And most of the people there are carnivore because they have found that that's the best way to eat. And all the science seems to back it up that if you want to heal from SIRS, you got to go carnivore. So I would say start there and then look into the Shoemaker protocol because most Shoemaker practitioners are very busy. There's not that many of them and they're very busy. So there is a waiting list to get to see one. And so there are things that you can do to start healing before you ever get your first doctor visit. Uh, Getting out of the exposure. If you're in a moldy home, you got to get out of the moldy home. Find someplace else to live or find out how to remediate your home. You can start doing carnivore. And all of these things can happen before you ever see the doctor the first time. And that way the doctor can focus on getting your diagnosis accurate with the proper blood tests and start you on the proper medications.
So, regarding SIRS, like, it's something I had never heard of until I got involved in the carnivore community. Um, is it one of these things that is actually a bigger problem than we probably realize, but many people put it down to, it's all in your head, or it's all allergies or something like that?
Absolutely. That you just asked the $60 million question right there. SIRS, the gene that triggers it, exists in the US in 1 in 4 people. Now, I just played around on Google the other day and found out the statistics on 1 in 5 people. 1 in 5 people are likely to be obese. So, if you're obese, you are already within the odds of somebody who has SIRS. 1 in 5 people is likely to develop some kind of cancer during their lifetime. So again, if you've had any kind of a cancer episode, even if it's something like skin cancer, you're within the statistics of somebody who has SIRS. And the SIRS symptoms are all over the place. So for me, it was mostly just the joint pain that I was experiencing, some of the bladder issues that I was experiencing. But for other people, it can be something like just migraine headaches all the time. For somebody else, it could be severe digestive problems, Crohn's, celiacs, SIBO, those sorts of things. For some people, it's just chronic fatigue. It can show up in different ways in so many people. It is a multi-system, multi-symptom illness. So I tell people, I have this one question: do you have SIRS? There is only 3 ways to answer that question. The first is, yes, I took the VCS test and I failed it. So therefore, I have SIRS. The VCS test is 98.85% accurate for diagnosing SIRS. The answer number 2 that is correct is, no, I took the VCS test. I passed it completely with no symptoms. And the third answer is, I don't know because I haven't taken the VCS test. So if someone is struggling, trying to figure out why carnivore is not healing everything, what all these strange symptoms are that they have, or what have they been dealing with for years that maybe they don't know, or even if it's just something that just came on fairly suddenly, that it still might be SIRS. They might have the gene that triggers SIRS. They should take the VCS test and find out, because SIRS causes damage long term in your brain. It will shrink your brain, and you need to get it reversed if you want to save your brain. So the only way to do that, that's been proven, is the Shoemaker protocol.
Right. And if someone wants to get a VCS test, is that available most anywhere, or do they have to find a specific SIRS practitioner?
The best way to take the VCS test is to go to the website survivingmold.com and take it there. It costs $15. So it's quick and easy to do in your own home. There are a few parameters that you have to set up. You have to have natural lighting. You have to be positioned a certain amount from your monitor, have your screen resolution good, and you take the test right there. It gives you a questionnaire. You answer the questionnaire, and then you take the visual test, and the results of that will appear on the screen in front of you. And based on that, you should know whether or not it's time to find a Shoemaker practitioner. The one thing I have to say is that about 5% of people who do have SERS will still pass the visual portion of the test. So there is that you could pass the visual portion and still have SERS, but most people don't.
So, Gail, if people want to get in touch with you, do you have any social media or any way of getting in contact?
I'm not really into social media that much anymore. I kind of dropped my channel, my YouTube channel, to focus on something else. And I did start a Facebook group if people are interested in that. It's called Carnivores with SERS. So if they're interested in finding me there, it's just a way of, kind of coaching each other through the ideas, a little questionnaire you have to answer in order to join. So you can find me there. But other than that, I really don't do social media that much.
No, no worries. Well, I'll link to that Facebook group in the show notes. Um, Thanks very much for coming back on and giving us an update and letting us know how things are going. Appreciate your time, Gail.
Thank you, Dave. It's been wonderful.